Hey guys, so I wanted to do a video today on compulsive praying, which I think is a topic that has not really been covered that much, not even on our channel that much, because I mean, religious OCD is still like a topic that I think does not get covered in a lot of depth, and I think you do have to have like a solid understanding about it to really see the nuances in it and how acceptance and rational thinking can also apply to religious OCD and how to recover from it. But I think I specifically wanted to make this video on the compulsive praying aspect of things because I think it's something that gets missed quite a lot, and it's something that I think doesn't get recognized for what it is in that sense. Because let's think about it, like praying to God or whatever you believe in. I mean, what could be wrong about that, right? Because it's just a really nice, good, pure thing that you're doing. You're asking for like a higher being, either for help or support, or you're just like making your wishes kind of like known to this figure, and like it's kind of like a having like your own confidant in a way as well that you are speaking to in a way. And when it comes to OCD, obviously, like praying is not something that is seen by many people. It's not seen in the compulsive category because it's like it's praying, so like I have to like, or how can I not do it? What can be bad about it? How can it be compulsive when it's something related to God? But it can be, it very much can be, and I've been there myself as well. So I mean, I think like obviously people who are watching this video are probably from various kind of like various religious backgrounds over here as well. So I want you to, whatever you learn from this video, I want you to try and contextualize that to your specific religious practice as well. So, but I can obviously speak just from my own experience and example of my religion in that way, which is like, I think, for example, like as Muslims, there's like you have the mandatory 5 prayers in a day that you have to do, right? So of course, like there's a certain because it's mandatory, and obviously not everyone says the 5 prayers. Like I don't pray 5 times a day at all. I mean, I'll admit that I'm not super religious on the ritualistic front of things, but overall, I think for me, and this is just a personal thing, I think for me it's more the spirit of what religion teaches that's far more, I think, valuable than the actual practice of the rituals themselves in a way. So that's kind of like where I stand on that. Not that I don't like pray at all, maybe very very occasionally sometimes I do, but I don't like always say my prayers. But anyway, um but yeah, so technically those prayers are mandatory, right? So of course, like if you're saying your 5 prayers in that way, say those prayers if you want to. Um, but so that in and of itself is not compulsive, but the way that you go about the prayer can be very compulsive, right? So I think like and a lot of people will probably be able to relate to this, is during the prayer you're probably going to question whether you completed like a section of the prayer or not, whether you were able to say like passages from like a holy book properly or not, whether you were able to fully say what you wanted to say or express to God yourself or not. So there's going to be those elements that will come into play. Sometimes people will like do their prayer and then doubt whether it was properly done or not, and then redo the prayer again and then redo it again, and they will keep thinking, did I do this, did I do that, was I able to do it in the right sequence, all that kind of stuff, right? The doubt will come into play over there. So that's one way that it can become compulsive. Second thing is the part of prayers where you're literally just directly speaking to God, and you're asking for things like I pray for to have that job and stuff like that. A lot of people, what they will try and do is that they will keep repeating that same kind of like prayer or that sentence, whatever they're trying to ask God of. They're going to keep repeating that over and over again till the point that they get that just right feeling internally. I used to do this quite a lot. So I mean, I don't know. I can't really think of like a specific example, but let's say I was praying for my exams to go well, right? So for me to say that, God, please help me in my, exams that are coming up, I would say that, but then I would feel like, I don't know if like I communicated it with like a proper, like a full, real feeling. So then I would say it again, and then I would say it again and again and again a certain number of times where it felt like where I got this imaginary just right feeling that okay, this has been now properly communicated to God and God has properly heard it. That kind of thing. So the repetition of certain sentences, phrases, prayers, wishes, whatever it is, that can be very compulsive as well. Third thing is, I think like whatever religion you may belong to, I think at least again for me, there's obviously like some mandatory prayers that you are supposed to do, but then obviously there are optional prayers as well that it's up to you. If you want to do optional extra prayers, you can, right? Because there's no like limit to how much you technically can pray in that sense. So that is where especially a lot of the compulsive praying can also take a huge can play a big part because people will say the extra complementary kind of like optional prayers quite a lot for whatever reason, whether it's you trying to wish away your intrusive thoughts, whether it's you trying to like really trying your worst case scenario to you really want it to not happen, so you pray over and over and over again for that. If you're feeling anxious, trying to wish away the anxiety or try to get rid of it just to ask God to take it away kind of thing. So there the optional prayers are where a lot of the compulsive element will come into play. I think the fourth thing, which is a very common thing with praying, is either right before your prayer or right after your prayer, people will be checking their groinal area for either like a response or for any kind of bodily excretions if they're present, right? Because the presence of any bodily secretions during the prayer, for people, the mix of religion and something that's more sexual is something where they're like these things cannot mix and should not mix. These things must be separate. So the constant checking of what's there and what's not, and people will sometimes even like before the prayer or after the prayer, they will also like even check their undergarments to see that is there something in there or not, that kind of thing. So the element with compulsive praying can come over there as well, where you have to kind of like you have to stop yourself from doing those compulsive checks or trying to make absolutely sure no matter what that there's nothing in your body or in your mind even for that matter that can even emotionally contaminate the prayer itself as well kind of thing, or your connection with God in that moment, because it feels like a very controversial thing that if I don't maintain this level of connection with God and I don't keep it completely pure, and it's infiltrated by thoughts, feelings, sensations, whatever, not only will God be upset with me, but I will also be a horrible person, and then I will have immense guilt, and my prayers will also not be heard and accepted. So it kind of like comes into all of that. Additionally, I think the perspective in general that I want to bring over here is that even something that is kind of like purely good is also something that can become compulsive, right? Which is why your concept around praying being compulsive or not does have to change, and you really do have to see it that way, because again, I've been in that spot as well where I was doing the extra prayers and the I was doing that quite a lot, in fact, to when I was really scared that something will or will not happen, right? And in my mind, it felt like, oh, there's an opportunity to do an extra thing. And if I don't, maybe this is the extra part that I have to do just for 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. And if I don't do just this extra part, what if that thing that I really want does not happen? So I really want it to happen. So maybe I'll just do this extra part. But every single time, every single prayer felt like the outcome depended on that specific prayer in that moment. And basically, like then throughout the day or throughout the week, I was constantly on edge thinking which prayer is it that is going to make my prayer be actually heard, right? So, and I think the example that I gave in the previous video that I did on Ramadan as well was that, like, trying to pray away anxiety and intrusive thoughts and OCD is like trying to pray away cancer. Like, whatever problem it is, I think mental health is just one of those things that is not taken very seriously by people when it comes to like kind of like having trying to do something about it in relation to religion. I think people think that mental health is one thing that if you are religious enough or you pray enough, that mental health will fix itself. People, I think, have a far better practical approach when it comes to physical health problems, right? So for cancer, people, I think, I mean, even super religious people, I think, are very well aware that no matter how much they pray about it, they're not just going to be able to get rid of cancer cells. So they will, of course, you can pray for the fact that, okay, give me like health and wellness and whatnot, but like you also have to take practical steps towards it as well. Or if someone has, let's say, like a, I don't know, severe migraine problems, for example, they will, I mean, obviously try and pray God to give them relief and whatnot, but at the same time, they will also go to a doctor and say that, hey, I'm having like migraines every other day. What do I do about it? Right? So that kind of thing. Mental health is one thing where people often do not do that. I think in religious communities, especially, there is a little bit of like a resistance towards seeking help, and it's almost for many people also seen as having mistrust in God himself as well. Like you're not trusting God to make you happy, you're trusting in a human being or like some external force to make you happy, that kind of thing. And of course, like I'm not going into the detailed like socio-cultural kind of like history of this, but part of it also comes from that as well. And there's a very long history as to why like religious communities have been traditionally quite resistant to mental health. So I'm not going in that direction in this video because that's irrelevant. But like overall, I'm just like making an overall observation that this often does happen in people who come from religious backgrounds or belong to religious communities. But times have also changed quite a lot as well, and you do have to understand that no matter how much you try and just pray it away, it won't just like it won't happen that way. You do have to put in a very deliberate, concerted effort into getting better. Of course, you can pray for for you to be recovered with OCD non-compulsively, but also you have to take the practical steps towards that as well. You do have to cut your compulsions, even if it means cutting down your extra prayers as well, to be honest. Again, like I said, I was there myself, and the more I was praying, the more I felt like I was going deeper in that religious guilt and shame as well. Because then every single opportunity that I wasn't utilizing to either pray or think about God or do any of those things, I felt like, oh shit, like I should be dedicating any kind of like extra time that I have to religion, because what if God feels like I'm not giving God importance? What if he feels like I'm not giving him priority in life? What if he's upset with me that I'm just, kind of like I only care about enjoying life, but not like incorporating enough religious thought and practice into my life? That kind of thought process. So it was making me feel even more unwell, like from a religious OCD point of view. So I had to cut back on, especially like the extra religious practice that I was doing, in order to sit with that discomfort as well, that, okay, maybe I am not prioritizing God. Because if I had not done, and I think like doing some of that work early on, in fact, that is what helped me build a far healthier relationship with religion itself. Because up till that point, in fact, religion itself started becoming a very stressful thing for me, and I started disliking religion quite a lot because of how stressful and anxiety and guilt inducing it had become. I just wanted to like just not have anything to do with it, which is why in fact, I had like a few years in between where I was I had literally just like completely removed myself from religion, aside from just a belief in God, because I don't know, that's one thing I kind of like still always had. But from even indulging in religion at all, I just went away from it, because even doing anything remotely religious brought on feelings of anxiety, discomfort, guilt, shame, all that kind of stuff, and rumination. I just did not want to feel the rumination or any of those things. So, and that was compulsive as well, to completely remove myself just because I didn't want to face discomfort, or going into it so much where I was just constantly checking my levels of connection with religion, or praying compulsively over and over again to really kind of like force things to happen in that way. So with a lot of that, not only will it be unconditional self-acceptance that you are someone perhaps that is maybe not following your prayers in the way that they should be, but along with that, I think there's a lot of life acceptance as well. That maybe some of your prayers will not be heard, and some of the things that you really want to happen will not happen. Because if you don't have that, if you don't have life acceptance, then you're always going to feel like you have to pray the correct way, kind of thing. So yeah, just some things to keep in mind right now. But I think it's an important topic. There is a religious OCD webinar that we are doing next week on Tuesday, especially in the context of chronic guilt and shame as well with religion. Please do attend if you are someone who struggles with religious OCD. I think it's going to be a good one for everyone. We're going to go quite a lot in depth. I don't think we've done a webinar like this before. So, yeah, please come and I'll see you guys there. Hope you find this helpful. Bye.